The story of David and Goliath is one of the most well-known stories in the Bible. It is a story of a boy or young man who slays a giant through his bravery, training, and skill with the slingshot. And we too can slay the giants in our lives, it is said, if we will be like David. The call is for us to see ourselves as David in the story and to be like him. While that makes for a nice story and has broad application, and there is some truth to it, what is happening in this story goes much deeper than this. For in this story, David, and then Jesus after him, plays a type of representative champion for the people, fighting a battle that he absolutely cannot and should not win. But he does win because God wins, and the victory belongs to the Lord. To tell the story of David and Goliath, we came here to the Valley of Elah, which is such an incredible place. You can just imagine the battle taking place here. And we know that this was the spot where the battle took place because the Bible is very specific about this valley and the towns that surrounded it. One of the towns in this area is a town called Kiriath-Jearim, which means a city with two gates. And one of the cities that is found right here on this hill indeed has two gates, which is a rather unusual configuration for a city. And there is good evidence that this was a Jewish settlement. And a pottery shard was found in this area with writing on it that used many biblical terms such as judges, widows, resident aliens, and that the men had established a new king. This perhaps referred to the transition of power from King Saul to King David, for the dating of this area dates indeed back to the time of King David. Now, whichever army held the high ground would be at a huge advantage, and apparently each army arrived in time for each side to take a place on either side of the valley on a mountain. And the first army to move down the mountain into the valley and up the other side of the mountain would be at a huge disadvantage, facing attacks from above. With neither side wanting to give up the high ground, the armies were in effect at a stalemate for 40 days. Leading to the single combat between the shepherd boy David and Goliath, the Philistine warrior. In the story, Goliath, the champion of the Philistines, is described as being over 9 feet tall, and he was from Gath. While not too many people today would be considered giants, the Bible mentions the Nephilim, a mysterious race of giants, many times. And the Bible says that within the city of Gath, there were the Anakim, or the descendants of the Nephilim, the giants. And interestingly, archaeologists have found within the city of Gath huge giant-like structures that are much larger in proportion and size than the other buildings and structures in this area. And Goliath was from this city and from this people. Now each morning and evening, Goliath would come out for 40 days, challenging the armies of Israel to a fight. Goliath was an imposing force. Not only was he a giant, but he was also like some techno-warrior with the latest armor and weaponry. Bronze armor that weighed 125 pounds, a bronze javelin, and a huge iron spear point. Goliath stood up and he shouted at the Israelite armies, "Why do you come and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man to fight me. And if he fights me and kills me, then we will become your servants. But if I fight him and kill him, you will become our slaves. Today I defy the armies of Israel. Choose a man now, and let us fight." Now David at this time was a young man tending his father's flocks in Bethlehem, and he would spend time going back and forth between Bethlehem and the armies of Saul, running supplies to his brothers who were serving at that time in Saul's army. One of these times, when David was visiting his brothers, Goliath came out and issued his usual defiance, demanding that Israel send out a champion to fight him. Now, the person who ought to have responded to this challenge was King Saul. In fact, when the Israelites demanded that Samuel anoint a king over them, one of the reasons they gave was so that they would have a king to fight their battles for them. But Saul, who was found hiding on his coronation day, was terrified and dismayed at Goliath, as was all of Israel. And David, who heard Goliath's challenge, said, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel?" When David's older brother, Eliab, heard David ask about this, he accused him of being conceited and having a wicked heart, that he only came out to gawk at the battle. But when Saul heard David ask about this, he had him summoned before him. And David, given a chance to speak, said to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go out and fight him." And Saul said to David, "You can't fight this Philistine. You are but a young man, and he has been a warrior since his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant has been tending his father's sheep. When a lion or bear came and carried a sheep away from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. The God who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Then Saul dressed David in his own clothes, and he put his own armor over him. And David tried walking around in this, but he said, "I cannot wear these. I'm not used to them." Instead, he took his staff in his hand, and he went down to the stream and picked out 5 smooth stones and put them in the pouch of his shepherd's purse. And with his sling in hand, he approached the giant. Meanwhile, Goliath moved closer to David, and when he saw that he was little more than a boy, he despised him. And he said, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" And he cursed David by the gods of the Philistines. David said to him, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin. I come against you in the name of the Lord. The Lord will deliver you today into my hand. I will strike you down and cut off your head, and all the world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's." As Goliath moved forward to attack him, David raced quickly to the battle lines. He reached into his pouch, found a stone, put it in his sling, slung it, and struck the giant upon his forehead. The stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. And David ran over to him and stood over him. He drew the giant's sword and cut off his head. And when the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and Judah surged forward and with a shout pursued the Philistines to the city of Gath and the gates of Ekron. It is an amazing story and an incredible victory. There's a reason this is one of the most well-known stories in the Bible. But the story is not so much the story of an underdog who wins against all odds, but a classic battle of good versus evil. Goliath is a champion not just of the Philistines, but of the Philistine gods. In the New Testament, the pagan deities are associated with demons, and Satan has falsely set himself up as the ruler of this world. In the Garden of Eden, Satan was depicted as a snake, and in this story, Goliath has scales or scale armor, and David, who's acting as a representative of God, not only kills Goliath, but he cuts off his head, which is what you do with snakes, and he takes his sword, the symbol of his power. This, of course, has tremendous parallels to Jesus, who is the fulfillment of the prophecy made in the Garden of Eden, that one of the descendants of Eve would destroy Satan, the serpent, and crush the serpent's head. Jesus, in his earthly ministry, cast out demons, and they trembled at his name. And Jesus, on the cross, defeated Satan and his power. And in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, we see that Christ defeats Satan with little more than a single blow. A champion riding in on a white horse with a single sword coming out of his mouth, destroying Satan and his power. Today, it is not so much that we need to be brave, but that Christ was brave. He fights the battle for us, a battle which we cannot win, defeating Satan, sin, and death. Only one man has been able to defeat this trifecta of Satan, sin, and death, and that is Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Son of David. So now, how about you? What do you think of the story of David and Goliath? Where do you see yourself in this story? As David, or the crowd, or someone else? And how can you join in the victory of Jesus Christ over Satan, sin, and death? May God bless you in this journey of faith.